This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
When she said I don't dance now, I make money moves, that was a mission statement for a whole new generation.
Respect, but that's not the Mount Rushmore. Listen, cash rules everything around me. When that line dropped, it changed the whole hustle. The greatest tracks are never finished. They're just debated forever. Introducing the Sprite Living Track List. 50 tracks that shape the culture from 6 decades of hip-hop. Scan the QR code on a Sprite or Sprite Zero Sugar to see the full breakdown. Obey your thirst. Sprite.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Rise up! Rise up!
This is the Rise Up See Red podcast, all about the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, featuring insider and outsider perspectives. Enjoy the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Now here are your hosts, Jess Root and Seth Cox.
Hello, Arizona Cardinals fans, and welcome to the latest edition of the Rise Up See Red podcast, the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. I'm your host, Jess Root from CardsWire.com, USA Today's NFL Wire site that, of course, covers the Arizona Cardinals. As we sit at episode number 800 is the 801 episodes of the CardsWire podcast, of the Rise Up See Red podcast. We're in the middle of training camp. The Cardinals have their first game of the preseason next week in the Hall of Fame game. They've got basically a week of practice in. They had their first 4 blocks, their first block of 4 practices, a day off and recording on a Tuesday. They go back to practice, pads come on, and Seth, we finally got it, and we have opinions on it. And Jacoby Brissett has his new deal. I guess it's good for everyone involved because it means that the quarterback situation is settled. He gets paid, and now we can move on with life without having to talk about a Jacoby Brissett contract anymore. But this is 100% for me. It's been a weird thing that the Cardinals felt that they had to do.
Yeah, it just is. It goes back to what we've talked about before of, lack of planning. It always seems to come back to lack of understanding the market, understanding, where they're at comparative to their peers, so to speak. And to be in a division like the NFC West, and to be the team that basically is better at like 1, maybe 2 positions, and they are maybe the 2 least important, every down position, taking away kicker, punter type thing. And the fact that a tight end and the safety room, and I don't even know if the Cardinals are have the best safety room anymore, but it is interesting to see a team say, hey, let's make sure that Jacoby's here and he's happy and he's our guy because, he gives us the best chance to win. Like, I just have never understood that commentary from people, and then their response of like, well, it's not his fault they went 1-11. It's like, well, if he gives
part of his fault,
but also
if
you're going to say the words, he gives you the best chance to win, shouldn't winning be part of that? Right? Like, I guess that's where I've just always gotten confused by the whole conversation. Is if you're going to use the words, they give him he gives your team the best chance to win, and that was the big thing last year, right? And obviously they changed how they worded things, and they moved goalposts, and they went to, he unlocked the offense, and you're like, well, he didn't really do anything in games that were within 7 points. Everybody's kind of generous saying, 17 points, so 3 scores, not 10 points, not 13 points, not 14 points, not 15, not 16. You have to move this all the way to 17 points and going like, oh, here, 33% of his stats fall in that time period. It is interesting to see that there's a segment of the media that is pushing like, oh, see, this was what the Cardinals needed to do. This was the right move and the right thing to do, because it makes everybody in the locker room happy. And I'm just like, if anything, it sends a terrible message that all that matters is your statistical performance. The overall product on the field does not matter.
It's so interesting to me, the whole thing behind it, because now, again, we want to make sure that we understand we are pro players getting paid. So absolutely,
Always.
100% good for Jacoby Brissett for being able to negotiate a deal. And the deal is he's going to be paid $15.5 million this year with a shot of getting to $21 million, what that looks like. Now, when he was due to make just under $5 million, that's a huge difference. It's the biggest contract he will ever have, unless he unlocks something in his career this year that we've never seen before. And if he continues what he did statistically over the 12 games last year and adds wins to it, he could get paid again. But he's getting paid, and like comparatively to other starting quarterbacks, he's being paid like a low end starter,
which I think is reasonable. I mean, I know there's a segment of the fan base that's like, oh, he's the new Kurt Warner, or he's the new Carson Palmer, right? Like, oh, he's gonna, he's the new veteran quarterback that's gonna lead you to the promised land. And it's like, you go back to those guys. One, there was a reality of time, right? Like, you go back to Wiz and what they did in his time in Arizona, and even in the bad time of 2006, the Cardinals overall as a team weren't terrible. Or sorry, 2007, right? And people are like, oh, well, Jacoby could be like Kurt Warner. You look at Kurt Warner, and he went.
Warner was a former MVP. Jacoby Brissett's never even sniffed anything close. Carson Palmer was a number 1 overall pick. He's one of the best quarterback. Like, when it comes to quarterback talents, I don't know if there's been a better pure quarterback talent we've ever seen than Carson Palmer in the last 25 years. Like people, let's not do that. Jacoby Brissett, he was a 3rd-round pick to begin with. He's been a backup his entire career. In the times that he started on bad or middling teams. And the only reason he got the shot last year is because Kyler Murray got hurt, and then it didn't make sense to come back. It was, I don't know. Like, he's had a solid NFL career.
He's had a wonderful career.
Why are people expecting him to be more than that?
Well, and that's just it. Like, they want to hold on to the hope, or create this hope of, oh, he's the guy that's going to give you a 2, 3, 4 year window, and it's like, okay, or he's had an epiphanous single season, where he was able to accumulate a lot of, stats in garbage time, because as Sigmund Bloom pointed out, his statistical output in games, competitive games, is literally exactly the same as it has been throughout his entire career. It basically lined up with exactly what he did in Cleveland that single year, as like the starter. And so like to look at it and go, oh, he's the next Kurt Warner. Well, Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer, not just pedigree, Jess, like they
experienced great success,
right? High level NFL success. And so the only thing that you can say is like similar is that they were downtrodden and didn't play extremely well. The year before they got to a new coach. But, again, you look at it for that year or those 2 years in Arizona, right? 2-8 and 1-4. So he was 3-12 compared to Jacoby's 1-11. So like even then, you're still talking about a guy that won 3 times as many games in the same amount of, in roughly the same amount of chances. Like it's just, it's crazy to put that as like, oh, this could be it. Right. The season last year was anomalous in a lot of ways, but also it is like where they're at. And you and I have kind of stated our opinion, right? Like if they would have gone forward with Gardner Minshew and Carson Beck, it is what it is. Like there isn't a huge statistical difference in Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew throughout their career. You've outlined that pretty heavily. So it's not so much that you're looking at a guy that is unworthy. It just for us didn't make sense in the realm of where you're going over the next 3 to 4 years.
It's for me, it's like good for Jacoby. And the curious part, it's not so much the money, but it's the setup the setup that they have in the quarterback room. Now, last year, of course, Jacoby was going to finish the season. The other option was Caden Slovis. No, everyone in the organization knew what Caden Slovis is, not a starting quarterback. And so you finish off the season. There was always the possibility that Kyler was coming back. Jacoby, is going to be the backup. But the way that that it seems that they're treating Brissett right now is that he's the unquestioned starter on this team, like a guy who's going to start 17 games. And for me, the part that doesn't make sense is, while it would have made sense for me, for organizationally, to give him a bump, assuming he's going to start for half the season, and then incentives that would pay him in line with a starting quarterback if he plays the entire season. But I don't know if there's any reasonable Cardinals fan that looks at this team and looks at what's expected out of this team that they might be a game or two better than they were last year based on the schedule that they have, and think that Jacoby's the guy that they're going to trot out 17 times. Like, it made sense for him to not get benched because he was performing well in losses, and they didn't have another good option. But my question is, after 0-5, after 1-6, are they really going to stick with Jacoby at that point when you've got an equally accomplished quarterback in the NFL in Gardner Minshew, and you have a rookie that, I know one of the things we're talking about is how he's looked so far. But ideally, and what we've seen in bad teams is when you have a young quarterback that you want to evaluate, you give him a shot. It's like, why give someone $10 more million who might get benched mid-season because this team is not in a situation like it's one thing if this is if you're letting if he's young enough that you can audition Brissett to be the starter moving forward. He's not in that situation in his career. Then a starting quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, traditionally, when he gets his shot and you're on a bad team, a bad team's going to start multiple quarterbacks, 2-3 different quarterbacks, because ultimately, if it is the best chance at winning, and they're going out and even with reasonable passing statistics are still losing every game, something has to change. And I know there's respect for Brissett in the locker room. The puzzling thing is how, like publicly, how little he seems to care about the wins and losses.
Because he's never. I mean, this is the reality, Jess. He's never won. He's never had a winning season in the NFL. His best statistical season as a starter is 7-8. You go through the other ones. He was 1-1 as a rookie. Obviously, I think we can all agree that doesn't really say much when you're talking about the Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. Think about that. He started 2 games, lost one. The Patriots lost 2 games all year. So he was 50% of the losses on the best team in the NFL. And then since then, and you look at it, 4-11, 7-8 in 2019. And that was kind of his best year until last year when he had, more of an anomalous statistical season. But you look at everything else, I mean, it's never been a guy that you win with. And it just kind of bottomed out in the win column last year. He's a guy that that takes a ton of sacks. He's never really, you look at the seasons he started, he's never really been above average in QBR. He had his clear best season in quarterback rating last year, and that really did nothing for him in terms of, his win-loss record. So it's just little things like that have flummoxed us as to why there's just this cavalcade of like, get on board with Jacoby. It's like, if your stance had been that the previous quarterback didn't give you the best chance to win, or that they needed to upgrade, and now your stance is get on board, your stance is incompetent. Like, there's nothing else to it. So, guys like Dan Bickley and John Gambadoro, who are ringing the bell for Jacoby Brissett as the guy, is just so it's just so backwards to what they've been saying about how you got to find a guy that gives you a chance to win football games, because throughout his career, not just last year, but his career, he doesn't. His average as a starter or in 17 games seasons is 5-12. There's not much change in terms of what he's doing on a per game basis. It is his work as a starter. It does not constitute wins, which is the bottom line in the NFL. And when you're going with a first time, maybe not completely, ready to have assumed a head coaching role, head coach, right? Like, the one thing you do need is a quarterback that has that winning pedigree.
Okay, well, and the weird thing as well is that this is a new offense for Jacoby, and he took no offseason reps. And I know that Michael LaFleur has said, like, he's played a ton of football. Yes, he has, but he doesn't know the playbook yet. This is not the same offensive scheme. And if you look at, like, last year, he was playing in an offensive system that he had played in recently. He started 11 games for Cleveland, the same type of offensive system. This is new. This is not something he's done. That's not saying he can't have success, but it's not going to look the same as it did last year. It's not going to look the same as he did last year because he's never been a wildly accurate quarterback, and this passing offense requires more precision and decision making. And I'm very interested in seeing how that is, especially when he didn't get any of those offseason reps, and by all accounts wasn't in the playbook either. Like, when he was holding out, he was legitimately holding out. He wasn't studying. He wasn't practicing. He took that voluntary to the extreme. Is I'm not doing it.
Yeah, and it's again an interesting way to lead, right? Like, and I've said too, my concern really becomes what is the mood of everybody that's involved. And what I mean by that is, like, everybody's excited that he got his money, but are people going to just be okay losing losing football games? Like, that's just where I'm kind of at. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. Again, if he's the starting quarterback, you have to hope that it's going to be the right move and that he's going to be able to turn these statistics into, production in the win column, because that's the one thing throughout his career that he's never really done at a high level. So we'll see how that goes.
Coming up next on the Rise of Spirit podcast, the Best of Cardinals Talk a little, we want to talk about what we've seen and heard from training camp. What are our early training camp takeaways? That's coming up next on Rise of Red.
When she said I don't dance now, I make money moves, that was a mission statement for a whole new generation.
Respect, but that's not the Mount Rushmore. Listen, cash rules everything around me. When that line dropped, it changed the whole hustle. The greatest tracks are never finished. They're just debated forever. Introducing the Sprite Living Track List. 50 tracks that shape the culture from 6 decades of hip-hop. Scan the QR code on a Sprite or Sprite Zero Sugar to see the full breakdown. Obey your thirst. Sprite.
We're back on the Rise of Red podcast, Best of Cardinals Talk on the web. Seth Cox with me as for a normal show. Jacoby Brissett is in the building. Everyone is locked in. They put the pads on today, as most of the rest of the NFL reports for training camp on this Tuesday, and there's a game next week. It's been interesting to was a slow burn, kind of a slow opening to training camp, because I think of all of the 4 practice they had, only 1 was open to fans, I believe. Or maybe it was open on Saturday, Fridays, on Sunday too. I don't remember, but there's not a lot to tell yet. They are still slow rolling the rookies. Carson Beck getting work with the 3s now, and Jeremiah Love mostly looking at doing second team reps. It's been interesting overall. They've been largely healthy, though there is a little concern now from Sunday because of Marvin Harrison Jr., dealing with what both look like an ankle and a back.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how that all works out with Marv. Not ideal to have that, and now it just becomes, kind of, I don't want to say simple, right? Because that's you do worry about the health overall of a lot of guys, and the first obviously being Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison, right? Whoever the guy is opposite Trey McBride. Maybe in this offense, both will get a little bit more play at it, but what matters is the health, and to me, what matters more than anything else is the health of that starting defensive line. Because it's already a massive question mark, right? Like huge question mark, Jess. And now you have very little in terms of depth. You have two guys in Darius Robinson, who's, quote unquote, flashed again this preseason. And then Walter Nolan, who looks like he's going to be a true problem in the NFL, but like you don't really have much next to or after that, right? So like the health overall, not just Marv, who is dealing with injuries, but guys that have is prone the right word, susceptible to injuries in the past, right, are starting to look the part. I think that's important. But how long does that last? And is that something that they can carry into the season?
Yeah, and the one thing, and obviously with Jeremiah Love, is that we know he's going to have a role in the offense. It's just we don't know how much he's going to play, and we've suggested from the beginning, like Jeremiah Love in college to Jeremiah Love in the pros, it would be foolish to try and give him a Saquon Barkley like workload as a rookie. He never did it in college. And they've got a guy in Tyler Algier. Now the Cardinals do look hilariously funny with the number 3 overall pick and not committing him to be the starter. But they also have Tyler Algier, who's solid. I think ultimately probably by week 1, Love will be the first guy on the field for starters purposes. But I think there's going to be Algier is going to have a large piece in this role, and James Conner is kind of the question mark about all of this. But it's interesting how that's gone, and the fact that Isaiah Adams has not taken any reps outside of the first team at right guard.
Yeah, and the offensive line is going to be interesting. You and I were texting with our buddy Johnny Venerable, who was highlighting Darius Robinson a little bit, right? And said he looks really good. Beat Isaac Ciamolo for a sack a couple times and team and one-on-ones. Obviously no pads at that point today. Right now, actually, there is the day that pads are on for the first time for the Cardinals. But and I text you and I said, classic Cardinals, right? Like, is this a good thing for the offense or a good thing for the defense or a bad thing for the offense, right? Like, is this good that Darius Robinson's finally putting it all together, or is this bad in that Isaac Ciamolo is like, got paid in Arizona, all right, let's just enjoy life for the next couple of years, right? Like, that's always, as much as we hate to say it, that's always a concern when guys get here, right?
Yeah, it really is. Well, and training camp, the question is always that, like, when one side looks better than the other, because let's take us back 10 years when it was rookie Brandon Williams at cornerback, and everyone was loving how he looked in training camp. And the second he was not facing the Cardinals receivers, he looked like dog water. It was terrible. And, if the offense is doing well against the defense, does that mean the offensive is good, or does it mean that the defensive is bad? If the defense is making plays against the offense and dominating the offensive line, does that mean the defense is good, or does it mean the offense is bad? That's the thing we don't really get to see. We can't really judge in training camp. And even in the preseason, when it's not apples to apples, starters versus starters, which you get very little of, you can gauge a little bit, but then you get unmatched guys, because you get guys like, honestly, who should look really good in this preseason this year. Gardner Minshew should look like an absolute pro out there if he's going to be playing late in games like that. Like we talked about when you've got guys who have been in the league for a while, who have a high pedigree, who have contributed a little bit but kind of fallen off. If late in preseason games, they should look like the best player on the field. And so it's always tough to gauge that, what the team really kind of looks like, until the regular season comes around, at least.
Right. And so we'll see how that all works out for this group. Here's the reality. I'm excited to see what the offense looks like. I'm not going to get overly optimistic in terms of win losses right now. It's hard to see, especially with their schedule, a lot of wins. It doesn't mean that they're going to be awful, right? It just means that it's hard to see a lot of wins right now. And so when you look at that, you look at the fact that this year their offense should be hopefully good. It's a new system, so we'll see how good. But the concerns on the defense are unquestionable, right? Like you can't just wave your hand and be okay with the defense. You can even, I just saw, actually, like literally right now, saw somebody say, I'm going to find a way to talk myself into 8 wins with Jacoby Brissett with what, Mike LaFleur's offense looks like right now. And I can see that, right? Like I can see people getting excited about the weapons on the offense. If Jacoby can be, 80% of what he did last year in a consistent way, they can compete. But like nobody's going, hey, this defense looks phenomenal, right? Like nobody's excited about this defense. And so that's where, for me, the concern is more than anything.
Yeah, it's hard to be optimistic, but overall, like you've got more or less the same personnel defensively with the same defensive coordinator. Well, you get Mac Wilson back in the lineup. If you lose Calais Campbell, so the defensive line could be okay. The edges aren't going to be any better. The linebackers not significantly better. The cornerbacks have promise, but now they're worse at safety because you went from Jalen Thompson to Andrew Wingard, and they were a bad defense a year ago. How are they going to suddenly be a good defense?
And they're even thinner than they were last year. I mean, that's the craziest thing to get to that. So, there's a lot that goes into all of it, Jess, and we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, right now, I'm just hopeful that everybody stays healthy. That's my biggest thing.
That is the key. And with that, we will wrap up this edition of the Rise Up Seaward podcast, Mr. of Cardinals Talk on the Web, as we have more opponent previews over the next couple of weeks, and we have more content coming from Seth and me. But until then, that's Seth Cox. I'm Jess Root. Thanks for listening as always. We'll be back again soon.
When she said I don't dance now, I make money moves, that was a mission statement for a whole new generation.
Respect, but that's not the Mount Rushmore. Listen, cash rules everything around me. When that line dropped, it changed the whole hustle. The greatest tracks are never finished. They're just debated forever. Introducing the Sprite Living Track List. 50 tracks that shape the culture from 6 decades of hip-hop. Scan the QR code on a Sprite or Sprite Zero Sugar to see the full breakdown. Obey your thirst. Sprite.
Thanks for listening to the latest edition of the Rise Up, See Red podcast. Listen to previous episodes and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Audioboom, or many other podcast platforms so shows are delivered directly to your mobile device. Please give the show a 5-star rating and always support the sponsors who support the show. We'll be back soon for the best hour of Cardinals talk on the web. Rise up, Red Sea, be Red, See Red, and of course, Rise Up, See Red.
Rise up! Rise up! Rise up! Rise up!
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.